everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I have my August book haul and wrap up. So I am in a new setting here. I'm still in my library, obviously, but we're doing a little bit of rearranging, so I think I like it because you can see a whole lot more of my library than we used to be able to. That's Elliot. The library is also a little bit more of a mess because I am going through a little bit of an unhaul and trying to figure out things I want to keep and things I want to purge, so that will be coming shortly. But let me know what you think of the setup. I do think the background, at least, looks really, really nice. And so, yeah, we have a book haul to do and a wrap-up to do. Currently, we're still doing this in one video, if possible, just because I feel like I don't have a ton of stuff usually to haul, and I definitely don't have as much stuff that I've read in the month that I used to. But I do actually have, like, 10 books to haul today, so more than I was planning on, but we're going to jump right on into this. If you do want to skip the book haul and just jump to the wrap-up, I will have the timestamp linked down below. So yeah, 10 books. The first two I have here were in response to my unplugged book box mystery date box video that I posted this month. I was very disappointed with that box in general, and I did end up talking to Unplugged, which I think I forgot to leave an update in the description of that video. I'm very sorry, I will update that. But I did end up talking to them, and we talked about the whole like survey process and how they picked a book, and based on my questions, like why they did choose what they did. Some of the reasons they gave me, I still feel a little bit like they were cop-out reasons, but I did appreciate how they went about trying to make it right. And they did talk to me about the different questions that I had answered on there and like my different genres that I liked and stuff like that, and they offered to send me a replacement book or a refund. I wasn't really trying to get a refund, so I was like, you know what, just send me a replacement book. That should be perfectly fine. And they actually sent me two. So the first one I have here is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. I've actually talked about this book on my channel before because I did read it as an ARC, and it was only a 3-star read for me. Not necessarily horrible, but definitely not my favorite. This is a contemporary romance with fake dating, I'm pretty sure, in this, and that was what got me with this book. Like, I really, really wanted to read it because of that. However, as I've talked about before on my channel, this didn't have as much romance buildup in it for me. It definitely tried to be a little bit more on the sexy side, a little bit smuttier, and that's not my thing if we don't have that romantic buildup first. So again, just a mediocre romance for me, but I do have some friends that absolutely loved it. Don't have a good place to put books in my setup yet. How about there? Maybe. And then the other book that they sent me is Reputation by Lex Croucher. So the reason they sent me these is we did talk about the fact that I did answer some things with romance. I do like romance books. We talked a little bit more about contemporary romance because I'm not like the biggest historical romance reader, and that's actually what this is, a historical romance. So it was something that I had heard about like once or twice, but never really had on my radar because of that fact. But I think I saw this billed as like Jane Austen or Bridgerton meets Mean Girls, and so I'm slightly curious about this. It is supposed to be a little bit sexier and smuttier, and so again, I'm a little bit hesitant about it, but I think this is one that I will probably keep on my shelves, on my TBR shelves, and see about trying, just because of the fact that like I did get sent this based on my tastes, and after we were able to talk about it, I do think this one fits a lot better than the book that they gave me in the video that I did. So I definitely appreciate that they went out of their way to try and fix the issues that I had with that box, and we'll see about this one. Okay, moving into things that I purchased for myself. The first one I have here is In Absence by Laura Diaz de Arce. This is a book that I actually read this month, so we will talk about it more in my wrap-up, but it is her new collection of short stories. This is an author that I have read from before, and actually, let me just get it out of the way now. I also picked up Monstrosity by this author. I have a whole vlog with this book in it. I will leave it linked down below, where I go into it, and I absolutely love this one. 5 out of 5 stars. The these are horror short story collections, although not all of the stories in either of these books are strictly horror. There are ones that are definitely more heartfelt and heartwarming, especially in this one. This one is going to be dealing more with like grief and loss as a main focus, whereas Monstrosity is a little bit more like feminism sort of stuff. But just based on these two short story collections, I have to say I think this author is one of my new favorites. She does have a romance. I think it's a historical romance book that she has also written that I have not read because, again, historical romance, not exactly my thing, but these collections are amazing. There are multiple stories in both that I actually think could be like a movie sort of thing, or like a short that you would want to watch. Like, I feel like they're very cinematic. And yeah, I just had to pick up both because I actually read this one as an ARC. Again, I will talk about it a little bit more, but as soon as I finished it, I had to buy them. So yeah. Then we're getting into some of the pre-orders I had. So one of them is Husband Material by Alexis Hall. I read Boyfriend Material in 2020. I think that's when that one came out. Absolutely loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. And this is the sequel. I don't know much about it, besides that it is a direct sequel to Boyfriend Material, which was a fake dating romance type of thing, which again, I absolutely love. And so, yeah, I had to pick this up. Like, I'm very much excited to read this, and I'm slowly getting into reading more physical books now, whereas the last few months I was only reading ebooks because I had my baby. So, yeah, we should be picking up some more physical books soon. Another pre-order I had was Wild is the Witch by Rachel Griffin. I read The Nature of Witches last year. 2020, 2021 just like blur together for me. I don't fully remember. I think it was last year. Again, really enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars, almost a full 5. These are YA witchy books. This is not a direct sequel, but it is still going to be YA and witchy, and I just needed to pick it up because these books have gorgeous naked hardcovers, I think for their first printing, so I had to get it as a pre-order so I wasn't going to miss out because I have a feeling I'm going to love this one as much as I did the first one. Then my last pre-order I have here is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Again, very similar story. I read The Love Hypothesis this year, I think, actually earlier this year. Absolutely loved it, and had to then get this one. Again, not a full direct sequel, but it is going to be a companion novel, I believe. These are all books that are romances, but like have a STEM base to them. The first book in the series was set in college. I believe this one is not, but I could be mistaken, but it does say something about NASA and neuroengineering. So besides those STEM elements in this, I don't know much about it, but because I did like the first one so much, I'm having sort of high hopes for this one. So yeah. Then I have Illumicrate books. I actually do have an unboxing for this on my channel as well, but I figured we might as well just go straight on into it. I do have the Illumicrate Afterlight for August, which is also Love on the Brain. I sort of forgot that I pre-ordered the paperback, but I also do have the paperback version of The Love Hypothesis, and I actually added on The Love Hypothesis to the Afterlight order as well. So now I have really nice hardcover editions, plus the paperbacks. We'll see if I keep both because they are different colors and I sort of like both of them a lot. But yeah, I liked the first one so much, I have high hopes. I'm trying to keep them tempered, but I have high hopes for the second one, and I just love these editions. I didn't really know what this one was going to look like, so I didn't know that it was going to be purple, but it does have stuff on the naked hardcover, which I just absolutely love. And this one has like hot pink edges, and then The Love Hypothesis is like this like pinky red color. Again, there is a design on the naked hardcover, and the edges are a more teal color. So yeah, I have 2 copies of these now. And then my last book to haul, I actually have no ebooks to haul this month, is going to be Babble. So this was the August Illumicrate, just the normal subscription, and this is obviously by R.F. Kuang. I think everybody, it seems like everybody, is very hyped for this book because so many people loved The Poppy War, which I did really, really love, except for I have not read the 3rd book because I'm scared. But this is going to be something completely different. It is gorgeous again, like, I'm holding it upside down. This way. Looks so cool. And it did come in a slipcase, which I do sort of enjoy. I don't think I have a ton of books. Like, I don't think I'd be able to do a whole shelf of just like slipcase books, but it just makes it feel extra fancy. And the design of this is gorgeous. This is going to be a sort of college-based translation, like Tower of Babel type of thing, and I believe the translation languages have something to do with magic, because I do think this is a fantasy. Yeah, I'm very excited. Okay, and like I said before, that is the entire book haul. So actually not too crazy. We'll go over the stats for that as well, because what I've been trying to do this year is keep myself accountable with how many books I have been hauling and reading, and like trying to keep my TBR down. And I failed earlier this year with a couple Humble Bundle purchases, so my number is quite high right now. But as of the end of last month, I was at 707 for physical books and ebooks. I actually did only have 5 books out of these 10 that I have not read yet, so adding 5 books to that total. But I did actually read 6 books this month that we will talk about that count against my TBR. So I'm actually down by 1. I'm at 706 now. This is the first month in a while that my numbers are going down, so crossing fingers, it'll keep going down. Actually, it should, because if I'm purging some books, especially purging maybe some TBR books as well, that should make my number go down this month. We'll see. But we're going to now move into the wrap-up. So, starting with some stats, because that is how we do it here. In the month of August, I actually read 7 books for a total of 1,433 pages. I read 1 book as mixed media, so I actually read it as an ebook and an audiobook at the same time. 2 were physical books and 4 were just ebooks. For the genres, 3 were contemporary, 1 was a romance, 1 was a fantasy, 1 was a horror, and 1 was a sci-fi. Then for the format of the book, I did read 1 graphic novel or comic, 1 collection of short stories, 2 novels, and 3 manga. 2 of the books were indie published, and 5 were traditionally published. As for how I got the book, 1 was a gift, 1 was an ARC, 2 were books I had owned previously to this year, and 3 were books that I bought this year. And then as for the age groupings, 3 were young adult and 4 were adult. Then we now have the stars. I actually had an amazing reading month because I had 3 4 stars and 4 5-star reads. So everything was 4 or 5 stars, which is great. So that means we are now going to go into the books that I read in the month. We're going to start at the lowest, which is actually 4 stars stuff, and then we'll go to my favorite book of the month. So my 4-star reads, I said I had 3 of them, and we're actually going to talk about them all at the same time because they were all 3 volumes. So the first 3 volumes of Blue Period by Tsubasa Yamaguchi. So I read volumes 1, 2, and 3. I actually talked about volume 3 in my TBR video because it was for one of the prompts. I don't remember what any of that stuff was. Don't ask me what prompt it filled, but I ended up reading those. I gave them all 4 stars because they are quite good. There was just nothing to fully push it over into 5-star territory for me. This is a manga series that follows a boy in high school who is sort of seen as a delinquent. Like, his friends are very much like typical delinquents, but he is actually somebody who studies really hard, wants to get into a good college, and he's taking a like elective art class, and while there sort of discovers a passion for art, and he takes his very studious nature and is trying to convert it into being really good at art, learning all the techniques that he can, because he now decides he wants to go to art school in Japan. I can't remember exactly which one, but he is like determined that this is going to be what he's going to do. One thing about this, because he is learning all these artistic techniques, they get very technical in these manga volumes about what composition is and how you do certain techniques, because he's very interested in like oil painting and that kind of thing, and so they do get into like how to make things look 3D and where your light source is coming from and that kind of stuff. And while interesting, I did feel like it could drag on a little bit, and that could be part of the reason I gave it 4 stars. but I did like what I was reading. I just don't fully know if it's something that I'm going to necessarily want to keep picking up and reading more of, because it's not as compelling as I was hoping for, but I did like what I was reading, and I liked the sort of artistic stuff that they had, especially because in these volumes, they show examples of art, and they have like the characters have to produce art and that kind of thing, and it looks like they have actual artists, multiple different ones for each volume, and they will have credits for who did what on the page, like in the panels. The only thing is, this is a manga, so everything's in black and white. I almost wish this was a color series, because I think that would translate a whole lot more, especially since there is such a big focus on art. But yeah, overall, very good. I just don't know if it's necessarily one I'm going to continue. And then we're moving into 5-star reads. So the first one I have here is Fables by Bill Willingham. This is the book that was gifted to me last year or something like that by Ashley from Bookish Realm. So thank you so much, Ashley. I absolutely love this first volume. Again, 5 out of 5 stars. This is a huge series, and I knew that going into it, and it has a sort of convoluted reading order, because there's like this series and then there's spin-off ones and they interconnect, and I like this one so much I'm going to have to look into how they all actually connect and see what the reading order is supposed to be. But this is basically fairy tale characters. So like on the cover here we have Snow White and like Boy Blue, and this is the big bad wolf, and they have been displaced from their home by the adversary. I'm not entirely sure how that is or what that is yet, into sort of like modern day New York, potentially. There's lots of high-rise buildings and that kind of thing, and they are not allowed to reveal that they are actually fairy tale creatures. And in this one here, Volume 1, Legends in Exile, Snow White's sister, Rose Red, is missing and potentially murdered, and our big bad wolf is like the PI, private detective police force almost, for these fairy tale creatures, and he is trying to figure out exactly what happened. And I really, really enjoyed this one. I also like the art style. I wasn't entirely too sure about it at first, but it definitely reads almost like Sunday morning funnies, like in the newspaper, stuff that I used to read when I was younger, because like who actually gets a newspaper anymore? But yeah, I really, really liked this one, and I definitely want to continue. So again, thank you, Ashley, so much for sending this my way, because yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And because I probably should mention, I did do the magical readathon this month and did talk about it all in my TBR. I did change some of the books that I read from what I was planning on reading for my TBR, so this one actually took the place of like one of the oldest books on your TBR, because this isn't like the oldest book on my TBR, but I have had it on my like want to read shelf on Goodreads since 2012, and so it was actually the oldest comic or manga actually on my TBR, so I figured it counted. Then I also read Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. This is the one that I read as a mixed media, both ebook and audio, because this is from the Amazon Originals series, which I'm counting as an indie press because they don't do like a ton, and it obviously is not one of like the big 5 publishers. But this is a short story, only like 37, 38 pages, and it is sci-fi based. I don't know how much I can really get into it because it is such a short story, but it's basically about a human who is not from Earth anymore because there was like some big catastrophe, climate change, something like that, that made people leave the Earth. They are from a different settlement, but in order to replenish supplies or something like that, they are supposed to send people to go to Earth every so often and get samples of stuff, bacteria or something. I actually don't fully know if they specified, but like samples of things. And while there, they discover things aren't exactly what they thought they were. I will say I absolutely love this one, but it does have some content warnings and stuff for like racism and fat phobia and transphobia and a lot of things like that. I really enjoyed how this played out because I did not know what to expect going in. This actually is my first N.K. Jemisin, although I have some books that I like want to read by her. And I just absolutely love the way that the story was told. I think the audio was brilliant as well, but I did try to read this one a few years ago when it first came out, and doing it strictly by audio was a little bit hard because the way the story is told is it is told from like your AI suit talking to you, like you are the character in the story. There is no dialogue from you going back to the AI suit, but because of that, I liked the audio, but I definitely just needed to follow along with the ebook as well. And I do think this was a great short story, very impactful, and again, went places I didn't expect it to go, and I really enjoyed it. This also fulfilled a prompt for the Magical Readathon, which was to read a book that only had like one thing on the cover, and as you can see, there was only like a leaf on the cover. So I did post a review on Goodreads already for this because I did read it as an ARC, and all of the content warnings are from the author's own words, like her author note for this. So let me hold this up, but the content warnings, according to the author's note, are death, mutilation, child death and mutilation, animal death and mutilation, body horror, violence, cannibalism, allusions to miscarriage, and raw food consumption. So keep that in mind. One thing I will say is I usually have a hard pass on animal death and mutilation and child death and mutilation, but I will say for me personally, while I was reading this, it's not something that is gratuitous. It is definitely something that, I don't know, felt normal in these stories that it was taking place in, because again, some of these are very horror, very graphic horror, while other ones are more heartfelt and emotional, so it has a little bit of like going back and forth that way. I will say that while I was reading this, I didn't think the content warnings were as noticeable as they are here, but I mean, I think that's the point of content warnings, is for people to make the decision themselves if that is something they want to see in the book, because they are all actually in there, even if while I was reading it, it didn't feel like as noticeable. And I really loved this collection. I gave multiple stories 5 stars, and even the ones I didn't give 5 stars were still a solid 4 or 4.5. My favorite ones, because there was quite a few, I'm just going to go through and name them really quickly so you know the things that I really enjoyed, but I absolutely loved Frijoles, A Murder on the Plains, Pain Eater, The Beast of Many Faces, Iguana Hunting, Heartstrings, and Tokens Beneath the Tongue. Those are the ones I full on gave 5 stars, absolutely loved. Multiple of these I did feel like could be movies or shorts, or even like a TV show that's like each episode is technically a new story. Like, I would love that. Like, I love these so much. And this one I did end up putting into my Magical Readathon TBR as well as an orange book. I don't know if you guys can fully see here. Oh, there you go. It looks more orange now. But this side is 100% orange. And so, yeah, I switched that in for that prompt because I needed to read this one. And then the last book that I read for the month, and actually my favorite book of the month, is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. So this, I will just mention right now, was another Magical Readathon prompt that I actually did talk about in my TBR, which was to find a book on somebody's worst books list that you think you might like. And yeah, the person that I stole this from is somebody that I know we usually have very differing tastes. Like last year, one of their favorite books was one of my worst books. And so this was one of their worst books and I gave it 5 stars. Like, I absolutely love this one. This obviously is the author that also wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I also gave 5 stars when I read that one. And I love this one. I teared up at this one. I stayed up until like 11 p.m. the night before September 1st reading this one so I could finish it, but also just because I could not put it down. Like, I stayed up a little bit too late because of the fact that I have a 2-month-old and she woke up wanting a bottle like right after I finished this, so we stayed up past midnight, and then I went to bed. But yeah, I absolutely love this one. This is a sapphic romance with a sci-fi twist. I think everybody literally knows that one of the characters is stuck on the subway, like has been stuck since the 1970s, cannot physically leave the subway train. And yeah, I absolutely love this. I liked the representation we had in here because not only is it sapphic, one of the characters is a lesbian, one of the characters is bi, but we also have trans characters and a whole plethora actually of people in this, and I just absolutely love the romance, But I loved our characters as well. Like, I loved August finding herself in New York. I loved the fact that she was making friends, and like those friendships were also a huge part of the story. And like I said, I did cry near the end of this. I don't even know if it's necessarily where people would think that you would cry because it's before some of the like stuff happened at the end. I don't know, but I really, really enjoyed this one. Definitely gonna be one of my favorite books of the year because like I think we're at that point where I can pinpoint a few of them, and this is going to be one of them. Although In Absence is probably also going to be one of them. It was just so good, so well written. I did not want to put it down. And this is again a physical book. I did read it physically, which is good because this is like a 400 something page book, and if I'm able to read this physically, I think I'm getting back into the swing of reading physical books after having Elliot. And that is going to be it. So those are all the books that I hauled and read in the month of August. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos up currently on Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!